So, we only have a few more episodes left, so be prepared because these last few are going to be off the charts. Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy Manga Andrew, and I'm here to do my breakdown and review for My Hero Academia Season 7, Episode 19. And let's just say that we are back at it again with an episode that probably has some of the best animation that you have ever seen, not just in My Hero Academia Season 7, but the entirety of My Hero Academia. So, there's a lot that we need to go over, so let's just dive right into it and really talk about what went down in this episode. And to start off, the episode is titled I Am Here, and takes its name from Manga Chapter 386, and the episode itself covers new material from Chapters 385, pages 12 to 17, Chapter 386, Chapter 387, pages 4 to 17, Chapters 388 to 389, and Chapter 390, pages 1 to 12. And if you can count that correctly, that covers a total of 6 chapters, but I would say relatively speaking, it contained around 4 to 5 chapters worth of content. And that is because, unfortunately, a few pages were cut from the episode, including minor scenes of showing certain characters evacuating one of the shelters, to some more monumental and character moments involving Geddon as well as Mr. Compress. And while these scenes do not really affect the overall story as a whole, they were very good scenes that really added to the stakes as well as connected to what was going to be in the episode, and overall just added to the characters of Geddon and Mr. Compress. But hopefully we'll be able to see these characters and these scenes added in the next episode. But with all that, we get the start of the episode with a brand new diagram depicting the route taken for the evacuation shuttles as people begin to panic. But we also do get to see a new angle and new scene of Deku versus Tomura that was not in the manga. Just standing there, just staring and grabbing each other, but hey, we take what we can get. And while there are no new changes to the opening yet, most likely we will see it next episode, the episode proper starts with Tsukachi, La Brava, and the other cops panicking over the evacuation blocks and All For One's escape as we get a change from the manga to the anime. In the manga, All For One's spy seems to stop the blocks with his electric quirk, but in the anime it adds and clearly shows that he is able to use his quirk to affect a sort of power grid or power source for the shuttle, but by him messing with it, it caused the shuttle to stop and his quirk caused it to begin to collapse. And the block begins to fall. Tetsu tries and saves the people from the falling debris. But once again, the day is saved thanks to the help of Powerpuff Death Arms. So yes, Death Arms finally appears, which is pretty much what we could have predicted with the opening of the anime. But overall, just seeing him playing a major role in the final war, even if it's this minor reappearance, really makes me feel good. Because overall, the scene was done justice in both the anime and in the manga. And speaking of doing justice, let's go over to the next scene where another scene of a certain character was done justice as well, if not more so. So the next scene we get is when we see the officers begin to panic over Dabi, aka Toya, turning into a high pressure explosive, which will destroy everything within a 5-kilometer diameter, which includes the heroes fighting against the Twice Toga clones and the evacuation shuttles, which would include the Todoroki family as well as the kids that interacted with Shoto. And the animation in this scene takes from chapter 386, pages 2 through 3 in the manga, and how the animation of this scene in the anime was pretty immaculate, as we get to see the details of the cracks forming on Toya's face as we actually see the explosion go off in the sequence, and how it's even a 1-for-1 representation of what he was doing in the scene, but animated just spectacularly. And it's this scene and many others in the episode that we will be seeing later on are really given a lot of care for those moments in this episode. But with this reveal of what's going on with Toya, everything seems to be over for the heroes, with no backup in sight, where we get to see Shoto and Ida getting a pep talk from All Might, telling them to head over to Gunga because they are the only ones who can do it to stop Toya from exploding and potentially killing everyone. And this is going to be the start of a lot of crazy animation sequences as we see Ida being able to propel himself through the air with the help of his quirk, carrying Shoto on his back. As we just get this moment of just some amazing and crazy animation. Oh, hi Stain. Bye Stain. Don't worry, he'll be back. But like I said, the animation in this scene was done extremely well, and this seems to be a constant when it comes to the characters of both Ida and Shoto getting some of the best animation sequences in the entire series as a whole, and this scene was no exception. But after we show the favoritism that the animators have for both Ida and Shoto, after this animation, we get the episode title drop with All Might having a conversation with Tsukachi and telling him that he will be fighting All for One as a distraction. And I really like how we decided to drop the title here. And once again, this sequence makes the third sequence in a row that was very much well animated and added a lot of care to the animation sequence, as we see the suitcase in the car begin to break apart, and as seen in the opening of this part of the anime, we're potentially getting the Iron All Might suit, and how this is pretty much setting up for what is to come potentially in the last episode of All for One versus All Might. So yeah, get hyped because that's probably where the season is going to end. But from there, we cut over to seeing the people evacuating the shuttle at the Gunga Villa site, where the spies are finally caught and the area is being evacuated. As we get to see the reaction of the Todorokis realizing how close they are to Endeavor and Toya. As we get to Endeavor running away from Toya in a very nice animation sequence, as well as just showing how fluid the animation of the fire is in this entire fight sequence, as we do get to see a slight change from the manga to the anime, where we get to see how young Toya is adapted as a flashback scene in the anime versus just a representation of a younger Toya in the panels in the manga, and how the anime really shows how Endeavor is struggling to hold up against Toya with the large impacts not necessarily associated with the fire, as Endeavor is beginning to realize how Toya is able to continue on the fight, as we have the realization that what is happening is not necessarily a quirk awakening, which could have been explained a lot better if they didn't cut the scenes of Gen as well as Compress. But what Endeavor realizes in this moment is that what is happening is that Toya is being sustained by Rei's quirk, pretty much confirming that not only was Toya the child that Endeavor always wanted, a mixture of fire and ice, but that this ice quirk was always a part of Toya, and it only remained dormant unless he was in a state of life or death, which is potentially the explanation for how he was able to survive him emulating himself at Sekko's peak. And with this realization in mind, Endeavor finally has the resolve to end the battle with Toya. And I will say that with this scene compared to the manga, the anime is really blowing it out of the water, as we get a sequence of him blasting off using Toya with his propulsion, as we get to see that he forms a fire hand with his missing arm to grab onto Toya to keep him close together as they begin to rocket up into the air. And as it seems as if this suicidal pact is about to come to fruition, we actually get the reveal that Rei, Natsu, as well as Fuyumi has come to actually help stop Toya. And this is very important because this will be the first time properly in both the manga and the anime we actually get to see Natsu and Fuyumi use their ice-based quirks, which are the quirks of Rei, and how they all begin to try and stop Toya, as well as giving a slight speech that is related to their interactions and relationship with Toya. Toya finally gets what he wanted his entire life, all of his family finally looking at him, as we get this sequence of the Todoroki family coming together, as well as prior with Endeavor dancing with Toya. Both scenes from the manga depicted in a white void, but that the anime was able to lift that up and add more to the sequences in the anime, pretty much taking these panels from the manga and perfecting them in the anime, and that's something that I love that the anime is able to do. But with all of this well animated sequences of the Todoroki family, all seems to be lost as we see Toya's body begin to crack and begin to explode, and that they are unable to cool him down enough for the explosion to not occur. However, the episode begins to end as we get to see the explosion from the perspective of the other heroes and civilians who are not perturbed because Shoto and Ida have finally arrived to save the day. As we see that due to the high speeds that they were moving at, that Shoto, using both his heat, his fire, and Ida's speed, was able to move as fast as a fighter jet and actually creating a ice shell that looks like a fighter jet. And how this entire sequence is animated once again extremely well, as we see that both Shoto and Ida eat the pavement, but Shoto is able to use his phosphor and run to the location of Toya. As well as we finally get to hear what Shoto put on his letter that he wrote to his mom, and how it pretty much is summed up by the experiences that he had with his fellow classmates of 1A shaped him into the person that he is right now. And that because of Ida and his goal of wanting to carry the hand of a young child, he is finally able to be the hero that he always wanted to be. And he's able to do that, which leads to an amazing moment of him running to save his family, as he's able to use his great glacial Eiger to disperse the heat in another well animated segment, not only saving his family, not only saving Toya, but saving everyone around him, becoming the hero he always knew he wanted to be. And yeah, the anime once again just animated this sequence to perfection and really adds to the emotions that you could have felt if you were just reading the manga. Really just showing that once again, the anime is able to adapt the manga in a way to lift it up in these amazing ways. And as the episode finally concludes with the defeat of Toya, we see that he's still cursing his family as the family is trying to figure out what's to come next. As we see Endeavor crawling on the ground alongside Toya, and he begins to apologize to everyone as tears run down both his and Toya's face. And a great note of notice is that as they are falling down their faces, they actually begin to freeze because of how cold it is in the area, not just coming from Shoto, but also coming from Toya, as well as the other Todorokis themselves, as well as just showing how they're all just covered in a layer of ice due to how cold the area is, and how it's cold enough for there to be ice there, but also we see that it's no longer raining in the area because most likely how cold it is, and the ice is actually being transformed from the rain. But yes, we do get this apology as the episode begins to end, and one final note that I want to leave on is just this small sequence where we get to see a sort of blurry sky that is actually from Toya's perspective, which is due to the fact that he begins to cry, and how this is the first time we're actually able to see him cry actual tears, either due to the fact that his body was burned to a crisp to where his eye ducts were no longer functional, but they begin to function either due to the fact that he begins to accept his family and the emotional turmoil that he's been rejecting for years, or due to the fact that because he has fire and ice, they are able to mix together to create water, which is coming out of his eyes as an effect of the battle that he was just in. Either way, the fact that Toya is able to shed tears is just a monumental moment that I'm glad that this sequence of the anime was able to add that was not necessarily clearly shown in the manga. But yeah, this is pretty much the episode itself. This is probably one of the better episodes that we've had in a while, not just story-wise, but also animation-wise. They really put a lot of care into this, probably because it's Dabi, Shoto, as well as Ida, but overall, this is probably some of the best storytelling in My Hero Academia, and I'm glad the anime was able to do it justice. But yeah, this is pretty much my breakdown and review of My Hero Academia. So yeah, let me ask you this. How did you feel about the episode? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? What was your favorite part? And do you think that the next episode, when it involves Toga and Uraraka, is going to be even better? Leave your thoughts down below, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this. do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!